Live from the capital city, Cheyenne News Now at 5:30 starts now.
Good evening. You're watching Cheyenne News Now at 5:30. I'm Aiden Greco, and as always, thank you for joining us tonight. It seems like it's going to be a nice weekend to get out and about before July finally hits us, folks. But what can we expect before we fully get to the weekend? Here's meteorologist Carl Rippey, who's outside with more.
So we do have some nicer weather we can enjoy as we get closer to the weekend. Saturday and Sunday are both shaping up to be some real winners as far as our temperatures go. And we don't have much for precipitation, even though we had a few clouds that were drifting through, of which we can see as we look up Capitol Avenue. This is how we started out this morning, a beautiful sunrise. We got into the afternoon and some of those clouds, they tried to clear out. And we get into the evening, they've tried to build back in. So we have a little bit of that instability that has tried to be part of our forecast, sneaking in and out. A line of some cooler conditions over to our west, 81 for us in Laramie, by contrast to 90, mid-90s for Scottsbluff and Kimball. Appreciate you joining us from the Western Panhandle. And for those of you in northern Colorado that have joined us, you're looking at some of those lower 90s. We fell right in between at 85 in the capital city. Some of those winds have changed directions. We'll see a change in our forecast as well, as that storm system that is sweeping across the southern tier of Wyoming may get a little bit active as we get into our Sunday night. But in between now and then, it isn't going to be anything too extravagant. And as far as the timing of our next storms for the end of the weekend and the first part of the week, we'll have a chance to elaborate on that just a little bit in the full forecast.
Well, Carl, that YO breeze that we saw even earlier today really does help out with some of that heat, at least I think.
Yes, that YO breezy, that's kind of standard for us. People ask, is it always this windy in Wyoming? Well, this is just a breeze, I say.
This is just what it is in Wyoming. That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Carl. The Wyoming Department of Health says that it's concerned with the elevated number of rabbit fever cases popping up around the state. Rabbit fever, or tularemia, is a bacterial illness that often affects rabbits and other rodents. Humans can contract this bacteria through contact with infected animals or even certain fly bites or contaminated water. Tularemia is pretty rare. There's normally only around 2 cases reported per year in Wyoming. This year, though, that count is already up to 8. The Department of Health is advising folks to be careful and are currently investigating the cause of these rising numbers. And today, the Supreme Court overturned the 1984 Chevron decision. Washington correspondent Ryan Henson lays out the implications of what this all means for government regulations moving forward and what one Wyoming senator has to say about it.
In a 6-3 ruling, the Supreme Court overturned some 40 years of practice. The Chevron decision instructed lower courts to defer to federal agencies when laws are not crystal clear. Conservative and business groups argued it gave too much power to the executive branch. Senator John Barrasso, a Republican from Wyoming, applauds the decision, saying, quote, "For too long, unelected, unaccountable Washington bureaucrats have gone unchecked. President Joe Biden has defended the law, warning the decision could destabilize the legal system. Going forward, the new ruling could impact how a variety of sectors are regulated, the environment, public health, workplace safety, and more. However, Chief Justice Roberts noted in his decision that prior cases that relied on the doctrine won't be impacted. Reporting at the Supreme Court, I'm Ryan Henson.
Governor Mark Gordon is also chiming in on the issue today. He says in a statement to Wyoming News Now, quote, "For years, unelected bureaucrats running federal agencies in Washington, D.C. have used deference as an excuse to target certain industries based on politics. Wyoming has experienced that firsthand." He then went on to say, quote, "Limiting their power to overreach is cause for celebration, and this ruling begins that process." Wyoming PBS is shedding a light on the importance of caregivers' mental health in a new episode of their series, A State of Mind.
Because we're focusing, I think, on so many other aspects with mental health, we don't think about this aspect, because there are a lot of people in Wyoming who are taking care of their loved ones in very rural areas of Wyoming.
Wyoming PBS will host a special screening of The Caregivers at Laramie County Community College. That screening will then be followed by a panel discussion with individuals from the episode and experts out in the field. Through this event, organizers hope to raise awareness surrounding the mental health crisis here in Wyoming.
We're talking to Wyoming. We're bringing what's important and some of the issues, the concerns, and the challenges that Wyoming faces. We're actively bringing it to Wyoming, to our viewers. And that's going to be, from here forward, a very important and vital mission for Wyoming PBS.
That screening at Laramie County Community College will be held in the Serberg Prentice Auditorium. That begins at 5:30 on Monday. That's July 1st. Habitat for Humanity is receiving a grant that'll be used for some new art. The grant is coming from the Wyoming Cultural Trust Fund. This new mural will be displayed on the northeast corner of Habitat for Humanity's Restore building. Named Building Community, it combines two artists' murals who are already on the building. Jordan Dean and James Overstreet are the artists, and Dan Dorsch says they understood that vision.
And it was really cool because both James and Jordan, really understood the vision of what Habitat is and how we help our community. And so to see that mission be brought to an artistic platform was really cool.
The unveiling for the mural will be taking place later this summer. And it's been a long time coming, folks, but one important artifact has finally made its way back to right where it belongs. Our reporter Quinn White joins us with more.
Members of the Northern Arapaho tribe are celebrating this week as a long-lost tribal artifact has been unveiled to the public. The headdress of Chief Black Coal. Chief Black Coal was a prominent Northern Arapaho leader in the late 19th century, known for his role in securing territory for the tribe in Wyoming. In 2019, the Northern Arapaho Tribal Historic Preservation Office received a phone call from Temple Smith, a retired professor in Marblehead, Massachusetts. The headdress had been in his family's possession for over 100 years, and Smith believed it was time for the item to return to the tribe.
I think that it's really important to have Chief Black Coal here because he was a leader, and I think it's very important for us to all think about how we're leaders in different ways. So I hope that he can really lead people and guide people in the right ways and usher in something really powerful, and that's all Arapaho.
The headdress was transported across the country back to the Wind River Reservation in January 2020, and on Thursday it was put on permanent display in the Northern Arapaho Experience Room at the Wind River Hotel and Casino.
Wanted to bring it up to the experience room, so this way, the Arapaho people can learn about who they are, where they come from. Not all the things that Chief Black Coal did for the Arapaho people.
The Northern Arapaho Experience Room is free and open to the public. It's an opportunity for tribal members and visitors to learn more about the tribe's rich cultural history.
It helps serve as a reminder in some cases that these things are still alive and that, our people are still here. And I think that's the message they're trying to get across.
One of the goals of the Tribal Historic Preservation Office is to one day open a full-scale museum. The office is currently working with the Penn State Museum in hopes of reclaiming Chief Black Coal's pipe. Reporting in Riverton, I'm Quinn White, Wyoming News Now.
And coming up after just a quick break, we've got more of your weather forecast and a look at some of your national headlines. Don't you go anywhere, folks.
Well, it may not be as warm as many of you would like it, but we're getting there. We're going to be in the mid-90s as we finish off the weekend. We're seeing some lower 80s across much of the Cowboy State. Also noticing that we're still seeing those upper 90s and those triple digits across the Southwest. That's where a lot of our flow is coming from. That heat's trying to make it into the base of Wyoming. That's one of the reasons we'll have a storm or two that'll try to get active. We get into our Sunday night especially. As far as what it looks like as we get into the evening, overnight tonight, things have settled out and our risk of severe has decreased. So that is good news. We still have some instability. We still have a chance for a shower here and there, but it does look like things are going to straighten up nicely for us as we go forward through the evening and overnight. And our only real action is going to be until we get into next week. So we'll have a chance to talk about that coming up in just a few minutes. For now, though, we'll check in with Aiden.
Thank you, Carl. It's the day after the first presidential debate of the season, and the reactions are rolling in. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump went head-to-head on a wide range of issues, but lots of people are focusing in on their presentation this morning. A flash poll shows the majority of those who watched think Trump had the stronger performance. Our Washington correspondent Julia Benbrook takes a look at how people are reacting.
While Trump went on the offensive and steamrolled through multiple lines, often reciting falsehoods, it's Biden's performance that's receiving the most attention. There were moments where he struggled to articulate a thought, leaving some Democrats questioning if he should be the nominee and others rushing to defend him. It's the first time a sitting president and a former president have debated.
The whole world is blowing up under him.
Never heard so much malarkey in my whole life.
President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump sparred over the economy, immigration, foreign policy, and more. But Biden missed several opportunities to fact-check Trump and counter him on issues like abortion, where Democrats have an edge among voters. Republicans now looking to capitalize on Biden's shaky moments.
President Biden is not up to the job.
According to a CNN flash poll, 67% of debate watchers said Trump had a better performance. Some Democratic officials are privately expressing concerns.
I think there's a lot of people who are going to want to see him consider taking a different course now. We're still far from our convention.
But top Democrats have jumped to the president's defense.
I will never turn my back on President Biden. We're going to double down in the next few months. We're going to win this election.
While Vice President Kamala Harris admitted that Biden got off to a, quote, slow start, she urged voters to look at what the administration has accomplished.
I'm not going to spend all night with you talking about the last 90 minutes when I've been watching the last 3.5 years of performance.
These two are set to meet again on the debate stage. Before Thursday's debate, Biden and Trump had already agreed to a second one on September 10th, hosted by ABC. The party conventions take place before that. That's when the party nominees become official. The Republican National Convention is in July and the Democratic National Convention in August. Reporting in Atlanta, I'm Julia Benbrook.
Nearly 48 million people tuned into that debate last night. That's according to preliminary data from Nielsen. The 90-minute face-off was broadcast across 22 different networks, with CNN accounting for just over 9 million viewers. There were noticeably less people watching on Thursday night, though, compared to previous years. The first debate between Biden and Trump in 2020 drew in more than 73 million viewers across all networks. And back in 2016, a record-setting 84 million people watched a debate between Donald Trump and former First Lady, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Coming up a little bit sooner than that September 10th debate, the Supreme Court will answer the question of whether former President Donald Trump is immune from criminal prosecution on Monday. On Friday, Chief Justice John Roberts announced that will be the final day of opinions from the current term. There are as many as 4 opinions currently outstanding, including the Trump immunity case. That is arguably the most anticipated and consequential case that this high court has had this term.
Well, it's great to see you. Hope you're doing well. Got a number of things going on in our weather as usual, so come on in. We'll check this out together. Temperatures are going to be reflective of some of that heat that we were able to get into today into the afternoon. We boosted into the 90s for our neighbors to our east into the western panhandle. We also saw 90s to our south. We were mild in the mid 80s. A few of those clouds continue to drift through. Some of those are going to have that dark underside to them. They may release a little bit of rain, but it's going to be hard for that to make it all the way down to the ground. It'll probably evaporate. When rain comes out of a cloud like that and doesn't make it to the surface, it's called virga, and we could get some of that. We're going to see a lot of that across much of the area. We do have some pretty dry conditions too, especially to our south where we see this dry air, this orange that is part of the forecast. we'll notice that we get through the next couple of days, we're going to see a pattern change where that fair weather moves a little bit further down into the Cowboy State, coming in from the north and northwest. It's going to push through. It's going to encounter some of this drier air. That's going to help dry us out just a little bit more, which is kind of working against us on one hand in terms of not having the kind of rain that we would like to have or precipitation, which is too bad. But on the other hand, we'll have some pretty nice weather other than a thunderstorm or two that is going to have a chance to develop as we get into tomorrow. We do have the chance for some stronger weather as we get into the afternoon hours of our Sunday. So day after tomorrow, which would end us out for the weekend, we do have a chance for some severe weather that's going to try to sneak back in. As far as tonight goes, kind of backing up, we'll be in the upper 40s. It's going to be pleasant in the morning for the most part. Sunshine is going to prevail. We may have a few clouds that kind of obscure our view or give us a beautiful sunrise and sunset. Mid 70s, upper 70s, that warming trend kicks in. Sunday's going to be much warmer, and we do have that chance for some of these storms to be a little bit more active as we get into our Sunday. I don't think that it's going to be anything too severe, but we do have those dynamics that could affect us as we end the weekend, so be aware of that. Into the morning we go as far as conditions, as if you're out and about, if you're going to local lakes or the pool, you'll be a little on the chilly side. We get into the afternoon, we'll break into the 70s, we'll see some 80s here and there. That's for our Saturday, and then back into the evening we'll drop into the 60s. So a pretty nice start to our weekend. And this looks a little worse than I think that it will be, but we do have that chance for some late day storms. So if you have some plans over the weekend, get things wrapped up and get headed home before we get into the evening, because if we do have some instability and some storms that do develop, they'll develop pretty quickly. For our Monday, Tuesday, we'll still be in the 80s. Looks like we're going to have some pretty nice weather over the course of the forecast period. And it might be too good to be true, but it looks like Saturday, Sunday of next weekend is holding together fairly nicely as one storm system makes its exit and we get some fair weather back into the forecast for us in Laramie. Also, appreciate you joining us from over the hill. A batch of 70s and 80s will be fairly standard. Now, we do have more coming up after the break, so don't go anywhere.
It's a critical part of your overall health. Proper hydration helps the body function the way that it should, but in summer heat, it can be hard to know how to best replenish what's lost in your sweat. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither explains when you should pick water and when you should consider electrolyte drinks to help keep you hydrated.
It's long been said to drink 8 glasses of water a day, but when it comes to hydration, one size doesn't fit all.
I always explain to patients that if you have a cup of coffee and a cup of water, those cancel each other out.
Dr. Matthew Anastasi with Mayo Clinic says an average person may need about 4 to 6 glasses of plain water a day for an average lifestyle. However, active people may need more, and as they sweat, may also need to turn to drinks that have electrolytes.
The more electrolytes you have in your body, the more water you can help to hold on to, and therefore it keeps you well hydrated.
Anastasi says the problem is that many electrolyte drinks also have things you don't want excessively in your body. That's why he says to check drink labels.
You may be taking in way too many calories, right? Way too much sugar, and you also may be well above your recommended dietary consumption of those substances that I mentioned. So I think, as with anything, it's a balancing act.
Anastasi says choosing whether to drink plain water or grab an electrolyte drink should depend on your level of activity. For regular, low-impact, less intense exercise, he says plain water is sufficient.
But if you're going on anything more than 30 minutes in duration, or anything that's going to be very intense, I do think you would benefit from hydrational support.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
And if you're planning on traveling today, folks, you're not alone. The Transportation Security Administration, or everyone's favorite TSA, expects to screen more than 3 million passengers. If that number comes to fruition, it would make it the busiest travel day ever. surpassing the previous record, which was set last Sunday with 2.99 million individuals screened. The Independence Day holiday officially started on Thursday and lasts through Monday, July 8th. TSA does expect to screen 32 million people during that period. That's a 5.4% increase over the 2023 Independence Day holiday travel week. Meanwhile, the American Automobile Association is expecting some heavy traffic as well, so you might see an extra semi or two out on I-25 up near Chugwater. AAA is projecting nearly 71 million people will travel 50 miles or more between Saturday and Sunday, July 7th.
We have a bit of a trend where we have a lot of 80s. We see some 70s. Looks like the weekends are holding together nicely. For those of you who just joined us, especially from over the hill, we do have a good looking forecast coming our way. Maybe a storm or two, but across much of our region, weather really looks like it's going to hold together for us. And if we do get a storm, I don't think it's going to be too strong for our Sunday, but we'll be watching that closely for you. We'll see you again tonight at 10. Have a great one.